and welcome to Askimo TV. We're talking today to Dr. Heather Currie. Dr. Currie is a gynecologist from Scotland, specializing in menopause. She's the founder and MD of Menopause Matters Limited and is the Honorary Secretary of the British Menopause Society. She's the co-editor of Menopause International, which is the journal of the British Menopause Society. Hi, Dr. Currie, how are you?
Good morning, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Dr. Currie, let's talk today about post-menopause and questions that people may have about post-menopause. So what is meant by post-menopause?
So the post-menopause is all the time after we know the periods have stopped. So the final period is one part in the transition of our ovaries working to not working and not producing hormones. And when we've had at least a year without any periods at all, then we know that we're into the postmenopausal phase. So that phase then lasts all the time for as long as we're here, really. That's an ongoing phase, and the key thing there is that during that time we have very low levels of estrogen. So it is a phase of estrogen deficiency, which can affect women in many different ways. Early stages of estrogen deficiency, intermediate, and then later stages.
What is postmenopausal bleeding, and how does it differ from irregular bleeding common in perimenopause?
Okay, so the irregular bleeding in the perimenopause is the phase when we are still producing hormones, so we still have some period pattern. The hormones stimulate the lining of the womb to become thickened and then shed, and that can change in its regularity because our ovaries are starting to work differently and producing a different balance of hormones. So in the perimenopause, we may have periods that start to come closer together or start to spread out. That's the irregular perimenopausal bleeding. Once we've had a year of no periods at all, then really we shouldn't have bleeding thereafter. So any bleeding that happens more than a year after the last period is classed as postmenopausal bleeding. In many women, this is actually still due to the ovaries working. Occasionally, we can produce a surge of hormones that will produce what we would often describe as a late period. And some women will notice before the bleed they've had the breast tenderness and bloating and feel like it was a period. But any bleeding occurring more than a year after period stopping should be investigated, because we then start to worry about changes going on within the lining of the womb, and we really need to exclude changes which can be suggestive of cancer of the lining of the womb. So that's the key thing, and the key message to women is if you have at least a year of no bleeding and then have a bleed, although for most women there's no worrying underlying cause, it should be investigated. So we do like to see people early to carry out investigations to exclude any worrying causes.
If women are still experiencing symptoms of menopause during postmenopause, what can they do to get some relief from these symptoms?
Okay, well, the symptoms of estrogen deficiency vary hugely in how long they last. So while we often associate them with being just around the time that the periods are changing and then the last period, some women continue having symptoms for many, many years. So the symptoms that start early can continue for many years into the postmenopause. First thing that we can do at whatever stage that we're having these symptoms is think about our diet and lifestyle, because often really simple changes can make a difference to these early symptoms and also to our later health risks. So if we're overweight, although it's really, really difficult, but trying really hard to try and increase exercise, to change what we're eating, to cut down on sugary things, etc. That can be the first start. Stopping smoking, taking minimal alcohol, cutting down caffeine, these are all simple things that can be helpful. Often women will then look at trying alternative therapies, and some women do find that they can be helpful. We are lacking in scientific evidence on the effects and the safety of some of the preparations available, but certainly for many women they do prefer the option of going into the supermarket or the chemist and trying some of the alternative therapies. If these measures don't work, and sometimes the symptoms are severe, it will be better to consult with your doctor to discuss the option of taking hormone replacement therapy. So these symptoms we know are due to a lack of estrogen, and what HRT does is aim to give the estrogen back in a very regulated, balanced way. So that is a very sensible option for many women at whatever stage they are in the menopause, whether it's in the early stages or whether it is in the post-menopause. HRT can still be considered.
Thank you, Dr. Currie. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're very welcome.